Have you ever thought about what makes a great interviewer? I'm talking about an interviewer perhaps on TV, like Larry King. Maybe you're familiar with Larry King. Maybe you're not. And no, I don't think I'm a great interviewer, Gabe, but thanks for the credit. What are your thoughts about Larry King? I'm sure you've seen some interviews that he's done.
I mean, he's one of the most famous TV interviewers out there. He wasn't the first. Anybody who has hosted a talk show, there have been many before him, for decades. But he comes to mind for a lot of people when they think about someone who does really good interviews.
What are a couple of things we can learn from the style that he had?
One of the things I really appreciate about him is that he's not over-prepared. And that's not to say he's not prepared at all. He does have...
So you can just wing it.
I think he does. Yeah. Not completely.
Right.
But even he says he likes to prepare a few questions, but then just kind of let the conversation take a natural flow. And I've hosted the Studio Classroom teaching program for many years, and I got to say, one of my favorite parts of that program is when there's someone that we have on the program and we have maybe a couple questions prepared, but it's all about what happens in that conversation, in those moments that you did not expect and you couldn't plan for. And then all of a sudden you think of a follow-up question that might lead to something interesting. And I noticed that you do this as well, Brandon, because Brandon, friends, he is very prepared with these insights features. However, a lot of times these conversations will go in a completely different direction. We might not get through all the questions that have been prepared, but we have a great time.
Well, it's natural to do that, right? And we see that with Larry King and the style that he had. Well, the writer of our article discusses how ignorance can be a good thing. He says, admitting your lack of knowledge is the smartest thing you can do. And he explains how Larry King used this principle to his advantage during interviews. Gabe, do you agree that we sometimes or even often need to admit our lack of knowledge about something?
Actually, I've been meaning to ask you, what does the word ignorance mean? Because I don't really know. And I'm just kidding.
That's good.
Yeah, right. No, it is good. It is good to admit that you don't know something, especially if you're not an expert in a field, but you're interviewing somebody who is. It's like, if we're genuine, we know that the audience knows that we don't know everything as well, and we need to be true for the sake of relatability with our audience. I mean, that's one of the reasons anyway.
Absolutely. And we didn't get through all of our questions, just as Gabe shared earlier. We don't always do that because we are out of time, but we invite you to look at this article about Larry King, and maybe you can apply some of these principles to just your everyday life for communication purposes, or draw some other cool things from this article. Thank you, Gabe, for joining us, and thank all of you as well for joining us. We'll see you next time here on Insights.